Coming back to San and Jang's location in the ancestral court, they were still busy making the array discs. Both of them were making the discs on their own. There was a striking difference in their progress. San had created a bunch of array discs in a single go, whereas Jang was still stuck on his first one. San told his teacher that a few of his discs were to be auctioned by the Lingxi Chamber of Commerce, whereas the rest of them were to be used by themselves. He wanted Jang to display them himself in the auction so that he could apply for some funds from the organization. However, he wasn't finished with the making of them. There was a whole batch to be made yet. The upcoming batch was going to be much more complicated than what he had already been making. Jang's expression suddenly depicted extreme exhaustion as he heard that they had to make more of them. The ones they had made already were apparently the simple ones, but took them ages to complete. He wondered what the complicated ones would take to be made. Nevertheless, he controlled his expressions and said that he wasn't tired. He wanted to observe San. He wanted to learn the process from him. There was no way he could miss any new skill or tactic by San. After a few minutes of break, San began working on the complex array discs. The process was quite different from the usual ones. He first arranged 6 spirits gathering arrays in his room. Seeing 6 spirit gathering arrays together, Jang was taken aback. He couldn't comprehend the purpose behind showcasing all the arrays, but he knew that something spectacular was coming up. As San finished aligning the spirit gathering arrays, rich energy spread throughout the room. The environment of their regular room was no less energetic and charismatic than a high-class suite. The intense amount of spiritual energy was necessary for the formation of the complicated array of discs. San and Jang both worked very hard to make them. It took them some extra time, but it was definitely worth the hard work. The next few days passed in the hustle and bustle of the preparations for the huge auction, and within the blink of an eye, the most awaited day had finally dawned. It was early morning on the day of the auction. All the grand preparations had been done. The venue for the auction was selected to be at the platform raised by 3 mountain peaks. The peaks that surrounded the platform were divided by countless caves that served as bidding rooms. The sizes of the caves grew larger closer to the summit of the mountain. The larger rooms were reserved for high-ranked bidders. The rooms were slowly being occupied by the bidders who had rented them as the time for the auction to begin near. The most unexpected thing in the auction was that San and Jang had not registered themselves with the Lingxi Chamber of Commerce. Instead, they bought 2 bidding rooms privately to run their own business. San had rented cave number 336, and Jang's cave was 338. They didn't spend much money on the bidding rooms, thus both their caves were of comparatively smaller sizes. Inside their caves, there was just enough space to fit a person and a telescope to observe the auction items. A small crystal ball was also placed next to the telescope to allow the bidders to bid. San went a little early and made himself comfortable in the cave. He was thrilled to test a new skill he had learned after his Heavenly Fox transformation was upgraded. The skill was named the Energy Observation Technique. With that unique ability, he could observe other people's luck. That ability could be used on both animate and inanimate objects. The first thing he assessed with the Energy Observation Technique was the energy present in the auction house. He found out that the auction house was full of black and red energies. The black one stood for darkness and bad luck, whereas the red one represented bloodshed and killing. The environment had a trace of negative impacts from the Heavenly Fox Mountain. It was one of those places used to hedge against bad luck. A while later, when he learned through his communication array that Master Jang had arrived in his cave too, he informed him about his location. Jang told him the location of his cave as well. They had about 3,000 elemental coins, so Jang told San to freely take anything he required for his experimentations. San was all ears to his teacher when he suddenly heard the familiar sound of the bell. The sound came from an alarm that he had set up back in Carrie City under the tree where he met May. It was set to sound when someone stood under the tree for more than 10 minutes. It was highly unlikely that anyone other than May would stand continuously for more than 10 minutes under that tree. The ringing of the alarm bell thus indicated that May was out of her quarantine. San had promised her that he would meet her within 3 days if she showed up under the tree. As he heard the alarm, he wanted to rush back to Carrie City and meet her right away. He couldn't even wait till the end of the auction. He started thinking of ways to leave as soon as possible. One option was to leave the auction to the teacher, but he was afraid that he could actually take proper care of it. Teacher Jang was a sensible man, but San doubted his abilities to handle the auction. If they were to win something good over there, then he had to stay back. He calmed himself, redirected his attention toward the auction items, and observed them carefully. It wasn't very common for auctions to occur every now and then. It would have been very unwise of him to let it go like that. He still had 3 days to meet May. Once the auction was over, he could go and visit her within a single day using teleportation. Thus, he made himself understand and tried focusing on the present instead of the future. Just a few minutes later, the auction had officially begun as the host came up on the stage and welcomed all the bidders. He introduced the event as a fair and impartial one. All the worthy treasures were always awarded to the highest bidders. In conjunction with the auction's history, the event was divided into 3 days for the bidding of spiritual items, rare items, and divine tools. The first day was for the bidding of spiritual items. After the host explained all the rules, the event took a formal start. The lots were brought up one after another. The first one to be presented to the audience was the skeleton of the Star Moon Earth Dragon. San was immensely shocked to see the variety of strange items coming up one after another. They were all regular spiritual items, but San found them rare as they had not seen anything like that before. The auction was to last for 3 days, but San already knew that the last day on which the auctioning of divine items would occur was not meant for him. That was the day when all the divine powerhouses of the ancestral court would bid. San had no place amongst them. In addition to the fact that he was invited to Carry City by May, he kept his focus on the first 2 days of the auction. As soon as the auction items were displayed, the host received bidding offers. The offers opened with 600 elemental coins. Everyone was so enthusiastic at the event that the host didn't even get a second to breathe and relax while he announced the continuously increasing bidding offers. It went straight up from 600 to 1,000 elemental coins. San was astonished to see the sky-high prices. He wanted to buy the items, but he didn't have enough money. In 3,000 elemental coins that he had, he could hardly buy a single item. He was having a hard time resisting himself as he saw the lavish items, but he was bound by the shortage of money. Waiting for the perfect low-priced item was all he could do. The first item was sold within the blink of an eye. The second item was the heavy sword, which had killed 9 divine-level powerhouses and a great demon king. It could easily be called the most precious treasure of the Golden Lion clan. In fact, it was the host's favorite item as well. One might wonder why such a precious item was auctioned. It was put up for sale because its official master had lost it in a competition. Since it was of no use to him, it was better to auction so that someone else might make use of it. However, only the members of the Lion or Tiger clan were allowed to bid for it. Because there were only a few members of those 2 clans in the auction event, the starting price for it was only 1 elemental coin. Unbelievable. Such a luxury treasure for a single coin. It appeared as if the bid wasn't as good as it appeared. There was a condition set forth for the bidders to fulfill before they could purchase it. The purchaser was to fight and defeat the great demon king who had formerly defeated the patriarch of their clan in a life-and-death fight. The winner would also be officially selected as the future patriarch of the Lion and Tiger clans. With that announcement, the host called for the bidders to present their bids. He waited for a few seconds, but there was complete silence amongst the crowd. A few minutes had passed by, but not a single bidder had come forward to fulfill the condition. The host got puzzled too, as he knew there were some members from the Tiger and Lion clan participating in the auction. It was strange that none of them showed up. Not even a single member of their clan turned out to be a warrior who could defeat the patriarch. No one had even the courage to pick up the glorious sword in his hand. In practical terms, it was pretty normal that no one came up to bid because the opponent was an 11th-ranked demon king. It wouldn't be easy to defeat him. However, the host of the event, who was a member of the Lion and Tiger clan himself, couldn't understand that basic fact. Perhaps he wanted to raise a sense of responsibility amongst the crowd. For the glory of their clan, it was imperative to keep the glorious sword to themselves. If any outsider took hold of it, then they would lose a big heritage of their culture. All of a sudden, the host received a notification from cave number 336. The bidder in that cave bid for 1 elemental coin. He was relieved to receive the first bid after so long, but there was an issue. He couldn't recall room 336 being rented by a member of his own clan. It was San. He had sent a message through the crystal ball for bidding. After all, 1 elemental coin was way too cheap. It was definitely worth it to give it a try. Though he couldn't use the sword himself as he didn't belong to that clan, Liger's Sword Saint could use it. He wanted to win it for him. He had a first-level bloodline. It wouldn't be much difficult for him to defeat the opponent. Moreover, his purified bloodline wouldn't be rejected by the council. Nevertheless, San's idea wasn't recognized as a good one by his teacher. Zhang thought that he was just messing around as only Lion and Tiger bidders could bid for that sword. If he kept on fooling around like that, he could get himself into big trouble. They, as humans, weren't allowed to participate in auctions in the first place. Zhang had contacted one of his old fellows who was a secret agent. With the help of that agent, they were luckily able to rent 2 caves. Not only San and Zhang, but also those agents would be in trouble if their identities were leaked. Anyhow, San calmed him down by telecommunicating him a message that he had a very genius plan in his mind that wouldn't cause him any issues. A few minutes had passed after San presented his bid, and no one else had bid higher than him. Thus, the sword was eventually given to room No. 336 on the condition of defeating the patriarch. The host instructed him to visit his office a week later for an identity exam. San was happy to get 7 days before the test. Within those 7 days, he could easily go back to Carry City and bring Liger Sword Saint with him. As the sword auction was settled, San didn't pay attention to the other items. They were all pricey, and San was short of money. He was waiting for the blood essences. The reason for being so eager to collect maximum blood essences was that he wanted to gift it to his teammates so that they could break through to higher levels. They were in dire need of it. One by one, the auction items were brought forward onto the platform. The early morning slot of the auction event had ended, and San couldn't find anything of his choice to bid on. After a short break, the afternoon slot was announced to begin shortly. It was to be hosted by a beautiful young girl. She told everyone that the items she had for her slot were way more valuable than the previous ones. San got alert. He was confident of finding something of his choice. The host presented the first item, which blew San's mind. It was exactly what he needed. The first auction item on the list was the Winged Great Ping's blood essence, which was completely consistent with Zicheng's bloodline. If she was given those drops, her bloodline would be purified to a great extent. The even more exciting part was there were 10 drops of it. San was extremely thrilled that its bidding had begun. He couldn't lose those 10 drops at any cost. He messaged his master that he wanted to have it. The host announced the starting price of 300 elemental coins. 300 was quite a decent start to the bidding prices. Within a span of just a few seconds, the price rose to 600 elemental coins. San assessed the statistics and immediately bid for 1,000 coins before anyone else could sign up for it. The host announced the bid from room 336 and asked if anyone was ready to pay higher. A weak shrieking sound came from one of the rooms. Someone had bid for 1,010 coins. To suppress that bidder instantly, San raised his bid to 1,100. His determination made everyone speechless. No more bidders raised their bids as they got scared of him. When there was complete silence for the next few minutes, the host congratulated San on winning the blood essence. San had successfully obtained the item of his choice. He had 3,000 elemental coins when he entered the auction and was now left with 1,899 coins. They were enough to bid on a few more items, but the items next on the list were of no use to him. They were all useless divine tools. The afternoon slot was about to end too. Just the last 3 items were remaining. It was time for the penultimate lot to be presented for auction. A man came up on the platform and placed a table covered with a red cloth in the middle. A luminous box containing the penultimate lot was placed on top of the table. It was sent exclusively by the Heavenly Fox Mountain. As San looked it up with his energy observation technique, he found out that the black and red aura of the entire auction venue had vanished as soon as the lot was brought up. The lot itself radiated a peculiar energy. Perhaps it radiated the power of luck. A minute later, the host opened the box and presented the first item. It was an antique necklace with stones of luck embellished onto it. Its core gem was named the Stone of Blessing by the Great Emperor. San was stunned to see the magnificent aura of good luck emanating from it. He got so excited to see a treasure sent from the Heavenly Fox Mountain. It would indeed be filled with the intense power of luck, as San could perceive its energy similar to the energy of the white flower back in the Hell Garden. The host went on to explain the effect of the Stone of Blessing. It played a major role in breaking through to higher ranks. If a person wanted to be upgraded to divine levels and become a demon king, then it was imperative for him to undergo a series of heavenly tribulations. If he failed to do so, then he would die. That was where the role of the Stone of Blessing came. If someone carried that stone throughout the tribulations, he wouldn't die even if he failed. In short, it could be regarded as a second chance to break through. San's mind was captured by some deep thoughts as he heard the benefit of the Blessing Stone. Its usage would greatly increase the chances of success because one would go through the tribulations the second time with the experience from the first one preserved. He had almost made up his mind that he wanted to bid for it, but backed away as the host announced its starting price. It was set at 3,000 elemental coins, and each increase in price had to be more than 100 coins. As soon as the bidding opened, the rich bidders raised the price to more than 5,000 coins. Within the blink of an eye, it had reached 8,000. It was way too unaffordable for commoners like San. He was struck by amazement as the bid didn't stop at 8,000. It rose continuously until it reached 20,000 within just a few seconds. At that moment, there were only 2 voices bidding against each other. They must probably have been some emperor-ranked powerhouses. San was slowly becoming acquainted with the politics of the auction event. Both the final bidders would have most probably asked the Heavenly Fox Emperor for the item. Since he couldn't decide between the two, he sent the item for auction. Anyhow, coming back to the bids, they were still rising. The final price had reached 30,000 elemental coins. Adding some fun to the event, both the bidders were arguing on the mic about who needed the item more. Since they had taken the issue into their own hands, San simply sat back and enjoyed the argument. One of the parties bid 31,000 coins and mocked the other one for being unaffordable. However, the other party wasn't a weak one either. He bid 32,000 coins. The matter was slowly getting out of control. None of the two were ready to leave the item for the opponent. It seemed as if the verbal fight was going to turn into a grapple. Everyone
Join
was
our
hooked.
Discord for
There
the
was
name
no
of the
chance
book
the two
and
bidders were
subscribe
going to
for
end the
more
fight.
videos from us.
Out of the blue, both of them immediately silenced as a strong and stern voice came from one of the caves. That person announced that he would bid 50,000 coins and issued a warning that if anyone bid higher, then he would consider him his enemy. San found that voice pretty familiar. Upon thinking further about it, he noticed that it was the voice of the Crystal Great Demon Emperor. Did that mean that he was present in the event too?